Hello, and welcome to this video titled, It Takes Time, Stages of an Orthography. Our question for today is, how long should it take to develop an orthography for an unwritten language?
The short answer is, as long as it needs. A good orthography is not a 2-week process. We want to keep developing and revising until the orthography is both usable and acceptable. Probably not perfect, but usable by the local people and acceptable to them. The actual time can vary a lot depending on your context.
Why is this?
People need time to try out the orthography. Also, the first orthography proposal will probably have some problems that were not known at first. It takes time, months or even years, to sort these out. Even a good orthography will change over the years. English has been written for 1,000 years, but it has changed quite a lot over the centuries and is still changing. If you look at what was written several hundred years ago, you will see a lot of changes in spelling.
I know even now the American and British spell words differently sometimes. For example, the word standardized and standardized.
And we could list more examples. The main point we want to make in this video is that we need to take the time needed so people can use the orthography and they want to use it.
Okay, so I understand that it takes time. What are some concrete steps people can do during this time of development?
People have sometimes proposed 3 stages of orthography development. These are called different things in different countries: trial, working, standard; working, tentative, established; preliminary, working, publication. These are all different labels for approximately the same ideas. These stages are useful frameworks for planning and also checking how much work still needs to be done. The boundaries between these stages are not always clearly defined. They can be a bit fuzzy. These stages are not used by all people. If you're working with a particular organization, they may have their own process to work through or their own version of these stages. Even if there are no official stages in your situation, there are 2 big things that it's good to do. First, after you've made some decisions on the orthography, write an orthography statement which lists the reasons for the decisions and why they were made. We will cover orthography statements in another video. Second, let local people use the orthography for a while and set a time, perhaps 6 months or a year from now, to come back and discuss how it's going and what problems they are having. Then these can be addressed.
Are we ready to talk about the details of these stages now?
Yes, I'm not going to call them any particular label like trial, working, or settled. I will just call them Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3. These stages are a combination of what is practiced in several SIL entities, but they aren't exactly the same as any one of them. As we'll see, most of the basic orthography decisions are made in the first stage. The other stages involve using it, testing it, and refining it. Now let's talk about Stage 1. This is the very first stage, and we want to answer some really basic questions. One of these is, which script will you use? This is not an issue in some countries, but can be a really big issue in some others. You want to investigate the basic linguistics, phonology, and what morphology and syntax might affect the orthography. This will lead to proposing symbols for consonants and vowels and tones. You also want to lay out principles for how you decide on word breaks. And you do want to check out what government policies are in place. One good way to start all this is in an orthography workshop. This is good for both gathering information and for making decisions on the orthography. In Stage 1, we also want to learn more about the language community and what situations the orthography will be used in. This might be when a language committee is formed. We want to consider what is needed for electronic publications and how to conform to Unicode standards. All these topics are covered in other videos in this series. At Stage 1, the orthography is still quite flexible and would not be used by very many people.
That's quite a lot to start with. What happens next?
Stage 2 is when you considered any problems that have come up and hopefully solve them. It may be that some more linguistic study will be needed. Solutions can be proposed, and you will often have to compromise in balancing different factors. This is when testing of the orthography should be done. If dialects were not considered in the first stage, they definitely should be considered at this point. We do have another video on dialects. Stage 2 should be done before extensive literacy work starts. At least some individuals should be able to use it, especially people who are literate in other languages, those in schools, and so forth. So, a few trial primers and other literacy materials can be tested at this point.
And now for the third stage, the last major step.
In Stage 3, more testing and evaluation can be done as needed. Again, this contributes to the long-term effectiveness of an orthography. At this point, the orthography should be both acceptable and usable by the language community. First editions of primers can be produced. Any steps needed for Unicode compliance should be finalized now. A final write-up of the orthography and how the local language community is using the orthography should be done at this point. Any government approvals or recognition should be finalized now. Again, these stages can vary from place to place quite a lot.
How long should all of this take?
First, there are no guarantees for these, but we can guess based on experience. Stage 1 can often be done within a few months, depending on if a workshop is done, how much local help is available, etc. The timing for Stage 2 is more variable, taking perhaps a year or two, or sometimes longer. To get to Stage 3 can be even more variable. Languages can be quite different in how complicated the sounds and orthography are, how complex the dialect issues are, and how messy the social situations are. A relatively simple language won't take so long, but a complex one will just take more time to sort out all the issues. So remember that it is impossible to put an orthography on a strict and rigid timeline.
Is there ever really a finished orthography?
Not really. Even after Stage 3 is reached, there can be changes for a lot of reasons. The changes in English orthography over the centuries are partly a result of the English language itself changing. Local languages also change, and over a few decades, sometimes you can see a change in how the language works. Also, orthographies can change for political reasons. The country of Kazakhstan announced a change from Cyrillic script to Latin script in 2017, mainly for political reasons. The orthographies we develop will not be immune to these kinds of changes.
We hope that this video has given you an idea of some concrete steps that a new orthography often goes through. We mentioned several topics very briefly, and these topics have other videos which explain them in more detail. We hope that you will look at those. The main point we are making in today's video is that orthographies are like children. They take time to mature, and we need to be patient in the process.